Good morning and welcome to Living Local 15. I'm your host, Jessica Williams. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And guess what? It's almost Friday. We have an informative show for you today as the Civic Theatre joins me to tell us about their play, The Color Purple, which has its final run this weekend. So you don't want to miss out on how to get tickets. Then Leslie Weirich, the author of The Gifts of Grief, joins me for a heartfelt conversation about losing loved ones, the process of healing, and how to find hope after loss. And later, the NAACP Women's Committee Chair is here to discuss their upcoming 25th anniversary brunch happening this weekend. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Fashion, food, and fun. You're watching Living Local 15 with your host, Jessica Williams.
The Color Purple musical is on stage at the Civic Theatre, and this is their final weekend of shows. The Color Purple is an inspiring family saga that tells the unfortunate story of a woman who, through love, finds the strength to triumph over adversity and discover her unique voice in the world. The musical adaptation of Alice Walker's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel and the popular 1985 Steven Spielberg film spotlights Celie, a downtrodden young woman whose personal awakening over the course of 40 years forms the epic arc of this story. And I'm so thrilled to have with me the actress who plays Celie, Timya Townsend. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. So you all are just at it. Last weekend, this weekend, so many shows.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel great, honestly. I feel like we've gotten a lot of support from the community over this past weekend, and it's just going to keep coming this last upcoming weekend. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and you have such a huge role in this play. I mean, let's talk about your predecessors. 1985, Whoopi Goldberg played this role. The adaptation in 2023, Fantasia played the role and is still on the big screens. So how do you feel really walking into this this role as Celie? What does that mean to you?
When I originally got the role, I knew it was going to be a big challenge for me. It's probably one of my most challenging roles I've ever had, especially with the revival of the movie musical coming out like just a month before we all got cast for it. It's just a lot of pressure, but good pressure because I know that this was something important that I really wanted to do for the community and for like Black thespians specifically. I feel like this is our time to shine, and with it being in the month of February, it's just perfect. Everything's perfect timing. So I wanted to do my best for it. And so going into it, I just knew that I had to take care of this role and myself to be able to portray the best, story for everyone.
Yes, and what a story it is. I mean, the film really hits on so many levels, messages, experiences, tragedy, heartbreak, but also hope. And when we examine the two films, the one that was like 39 years ago to the one that's last year, it has evolved so much where the story has turned into hope and inspiration. So which film would you say that your play models most?
I think our show probably, is more like the movie more so. I do think, I'm kind of biased because I'm a musical theater girl, but I think the revival of the movie musical was great. It was great, but it was very Hollywood. I think ours relates more to the Spielberg film, but obviously with musical aspects. But we do have our own little Fort Wayne twist on it. It's very unique to us since this is Fort Wayne's first production of The Color Purple. So we really had to take the reins on that.
Yeah, which is really exciting. I love to see the diversity and just new options being presented in the city.
Definitely.
And so tell me a little bit about y'all's preparation. Like, how is it with your whole crew and your cast? How do you guys get ready for the show?
Well, I will say this show was very different from previous shows I've done before. We only had 5 weeks of rehearsal. Wow. That's so little time for such a big production. Like Color Purple's huge.
It
We only had
is.
5 weeks because we started early January. I think we started January 2nd, actually. We were right after New Year's. From there, it's really just been like a rolling snowball.
And so tell me a little bit about your acting background.
Yes, so I did just graduate from Purdue University Fort Wayne with a BA in musical theater last May. 2023.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So I've been doing this for a while now. And I also, I'm a Fort Wayne local, you know, I'm native. I was always involved with the arts, and then I just decided to continue with it as a career path. So I'm really passionate about theatrical arts, performing arts, just art in general.
And so, of course, with your role of Celie being such a heavy role,
Yeah.
I mean, you have a journey, like I said at the top. It's 40 years of her life spread in so many ups and downs, mostly downs,
Yeah.
you know, some ups. How do you get your mind right to really hop into the skin of Celie?
I think knowing that Celie is Celie is a person. Like, even though the story isn't technically based specifically on true events, like it's true to someone. Like Celie is someone out here in the world. Like there's many Celies out here. And I had to find that Celie in me, even though, you know, I would think I'm the total opposite of Celie, like I'm more of a Sophia or like a Nettie, you know, like I am not afraid to stand up for myself. I'm not afraid to go after, you know, the education I want or like, you know, just what I want. So knowing that I had to portray this as if there was a real Celie in the audience looking at this, looking for a, you know, spark of hope or faith, I really had to like make sure I was doing that the right way. So just being very mindful of how I was acting, how I was analyzing the text and going through like everything she was saying, breaking down words and like song lyrics to just get a more in-depth perception of Celie. For the audience, honestly.
Yeah, and when you were auditioning for the roles, was that the role that you knew that you wanted?
Actually, no. I came in, and this is just, you know, it's probably like naivety, but I always go for like my type. It's just easier. I mean, actors know, like it's easier to go for your type because you never know, they might ask you to do something else. But I went in for Nettie.
Okay. I can see that.
I was like, I'm a Nettie, like totally.
Yeah.
And then I got the call back for just Celie, and I was like, I was like, maybe she saw something in me that's like, you know, at first I took it as like an offense because I was like, oh, did she see something weak in me, or did she see something that's very timid or mousy, or like why do I feel like she called me back to be such a weak character? Like I thought, you know, I'm a pretty strong person, but it's not where you like, it's not how you start off, it's where you end up. And Celie ends up being a strong person, full circle.
Yeah, and
like,
so much range. You have to have so much acting and performing range to do that role.
Yes.
It's the lead role. It's a really big deal to be Celie in this place. So
yes.
God had a plan for you.
Thank you, definitely. Yeah, it was definitely a big jump from, so my first Civic show and my last recent show I did Shrek the Musical, and I was Donkey. So going from Donkey to Celie was a big mental jump and physical jump. You know, I'm not like 5'11" anymore,
Oh my goodness, that's so great. Well, I am so excited for you all. I am coming to see the show this weekend, and I'm thrilled.
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to be so great.
Get your tissues ready.
Okay. I'm going to prepare. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. And if you'd like more information about The Color Purple at the Civic Theatre, we'll have their website listed below so that you can get your tickets too. They have shows on Friday, Saturday, and a matinee on Sunday. We'll be right back.
Living Local 15, proudly driven by the Kelly Automotive Group.
Grief is something that we will all experience in life. Grief changes shape, but it never ends. So joining me today is Leslie Weirich, who is the author of The Gifts of Grief, which is a moving exploration of finding meaning and solace in the face of heartfelt tragedy and loss, and offering hope and comfort to those on a similar journey. Good morning.
Good morning, Jessica.
How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I'm so interested in diving into your story, learning about your book, and what you have coming up here in Fort Wayne. But let's start from the top. You have experienced loss in your life, a series of loss in your life, and you have hit a point where you want to use that as a passion and a tool to help others. So tell me more about your story.
Well, Jessica, you know, grief has kind of been my middle name, I say. I started grieving when I was 16 years old. I found out that I was losing my oldest brother to cancer, and he would die when I was 21. I'll be 65 this year.
Wow.
So in the last 47 years, I have lost multiple siblings, 3 siblings to cancer. My beloved parents lived long lives. I lost them at 89 and 91. So also lost 2 infant daughters. And then in 2016, I lost my 20-year-old son to suicide. And I also lost my best friend of over 30 years in 2018 to a rare heart defect. So through the series of those losses, you know, I've learned a lot. And I've had many, many people ask me, you know, would I consider writing a book about my story? So a dear friend said, I think you need to do it before you're 65, Leslie. And I said, well, that birthday's coming around. So my book launched on Amazon January the 5th, which would have been my son's 28th birthday. We launched the book in his honor, in his memory.
Yeah. And so as you have experienced all of that grief, what has been some of the biggest lessons and takeaways you've had to process and accept along this journey?
Well, I think one of the things I would say to everyone is grief is unique.
Yeah.
No 2 people grieve the same way because, you know, your loss is different based on the relationship that you had with that person. The grief over my infant daughters was different than the grief over my son who was 20. But what I do tell everybody is you cannot fast forward grief. You know, we live in a culture that wants to do everything quickly. And we also live in a culture that's very uncomfortable with grief. But the beauty of grief is, and I love when Brene Brown says, grief needs to be held to be healed. And what I want to let everybody know, especially people that live in our community, is we have an amazing community-wide grief center, the Peggy F. Murphy Grief Center. So don't grieve alone. Make sure that you connect with other people who can understand your grief and go through what you're going through with you. Because what grief really teaches you is if you don't push it down, if you allow yourself to grieve, on the other side, you're not going to believe the resilience that you found in your life through feeling your grief and not trying to push it aside.
Yeah, that process that has to,
Absolutely.
you have to give yourself space and give yourself grace.
Absolutely.
To go through it. And also, as you said, grief should not be handled alone. If you have a friend or family member that has lost someone, what are some tips that you have for the support system? How can people show up for them while being sensitive but want to be there but not wanting to make it worse?
Well, I think that's a great question. One of the things I tell everybody is don't wait until you know the perfect thing to say, or just show up. You don't need to say anything. It's okay to say, I don't know what to say, but show up anyway. Someone had written a beautiful post on LinkedIn not long ago, and they called it Grief Groceries. And so they knew this family had lost a child, and so they went to the grocery and bought all this stuff that the kids would like to eat, literally just put it on the front porch. So action, you know, don't wait, don't feel awkward like I'm going to wait for someone else to do it. You show up. If you know someone lost someone and their yard needs mowed, get over there and mow it. Don't ask. Don't ask a grieving person, let me know if you need anything, because a grieving person can't tell you what they need. Just show up and think about the practical things that need to be done and just do them. And don't worry about the perfect words because there aren't any.
Right. Oh, that's so good. So good. And so The Gifts of Grief, your book, is really just a journey of what you have lived and learned and experienced. So tell us a little synopsis about your book.
Okay. The Gifts of Grief is about my personal journey of losing multiple people in my life, siblings, children, my parents, and each chapter is dedicated to one of those people, what I learned from their life, and how their death prepared me for what was to come. So we call it post-traumatic growth. And then in the final chapter, because we had lost our son 7 years ago to suicide, he was a college football player. In the final chapter, it's called Leslie's Hope, which is my speaking organization, and I now speak all over the nation to our military and young men. And so I talk about, I think Viola Davis had a beautiful quote that said, "They say to serve is to love, but I think to serve is to heal." And so in my life and in these chapters, I talk about how what pulled me out of my grief was serving others. And I tell anybody, if you're having the worst day in the world, get out of your house, go somewhere, be around people, do something for someone else, and you won't believe how that'll pull you out of your own grief and heal your heart too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. My dad says the same thing. He does.
Your dad's a wise man.
Yes, he is. And so you will have your book signing here in Fort Wayne
Yes.
tomorrow. So please share information about where people can go and be able to meet you.
Absolutely. It'll be at the Peggy F. Murphy Community Grief Center, which is on Homestead Road. It's going to be open to the public from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. I'll be reading some excerpts out of different chapters in my book.
Nice.
We'll be talking about a lot of the people that are coming, and you do need to register for parking and for seating, but it is a free event. And I know a lot of people that have signed up have either recently lost someone or lost someone within the last few years, and we're going to hold each other's grief and give each other a sacred space there to talk about things and just answer questions. And so it's going to be a really, I think, a beautiful event. And if you haven't visited that grief center, you need to go and just do a tour. It's just a beautiful resource for our community.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And last thing, Leslie, suicide is on the rise in our
Yes.
country. It's affecting our kids and our community in such a heavy way. And so from being a parent who has lost a child, is there any words of hope and encouragement that you can give right now to a parent that is watching, that may have lost their child and may harbor some type of resentment or self-blame for the incident? Can you give some freeing words right now?
I dedicated a couple pages in my book to that. I actually wrote that openly to parents and to anyone who's lost someone to suicide. I say suicide's the only type of death where we focus on how someone died more than how they lived and who they were. Your child did not take their life because of something you did or didn't do. And I know that's a hard thing for parents to hear. And because I said, kids can come from the most engaged, loving homes and still die by suicide. Our son was the president of his freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class, scholar athlete all 4 years in a row. But the young brain is very impulsive, and I know we're losing a lot of young men. So one of the things I think it's really important for parents and everyone in the community to understand the power of mentorship, to make sure that young people growing up have mentors in their lives. And I could talk about this and do another segment on the power of mentorship. So there's a lot of great programs in Fort Wayne where you can sign up and be mentors, because our statistics are telling us if a young person gets engaged with a mentor, say middle school or high school, they're 80% less likely to develop a drug or alcohol problem in their life. And over 50% of suicides involve drugs and alcohol. So please forgive yourself. And if you are a parent who's lost a child to suicide, please come on Friday, reach out to me. I want to give you a hug. And there's a couple pages in there just for you, because you did the best you could with the resources that you had at that time. And if love could have kept them here, they would have lived forever.
Oh, so lovely. So nice to meet you,
Nice
Leslie.
meeting you,
Thank
Jessica.
you for that.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And if you would like more information about the Gifts of Grief book signing, we'll have that information listed below, and we'll be right back. The NAACP is a nonprofit organization and the nation's first civil and human rights law organization. Founded in 1909, they are committed to advancing racial equity and equal rights. And joining me today is the Fort Wayne Women in the NAACP Committee Chairperson, Frances Grant. Good morning, Frances.
Hi, good
How
morning.
are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Well, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the NAACP, but really we want to dive a little deeper and really inform them about the history and the works of the organization, in particular, how they are impacting the community in Fort Wayne. So give us a little overview about the NAACP.
Okay, well, the mission of the NAACP is to ensure political education within our community for equality of minorities, citizens of the state, and to eliminate race and prejudice.
Yeah, and so the organization has been around for a very long time, founded in 1909 in New York, and of course has grown throughout the United States by having chartered individual chapters. And so the chapter here in Fort Wayne was founded in 1925?
Yes, NAACP has been around for 100 years. They was established in 1924. Our president, Reverend Dr. Sahara Blessos, she's basically putting the committees out now to let us address the problems within our community, like education, food, imprisonment, and women's and children's again, and much more.
So in celebration of the 25 years, you all have this big brunch happening this weekend, the celebration brunch. So tell me about that. It's happening on February 17th.
Yes, we're having a brunch February 17th at the UL Winston Center Gym. The tickets are $30. We're celebrating Black excellence within the community. Dreams can come true. So we will have some heroes that we will be giving certificates to. We have speakers, we have keynote speakers. We're going to have food there, and just come out to celebrate our 25th anniversary.
That sounds so lovely. Well, thank you so much, Frances. And if you would like more information about the 25th annual brunch, we'll have the link listed below. We'll be right back. And I'll leave you with this. It's never too late to live your best life, so start living it today. And I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow for Friday. Hey.